Talking today to Djo Munga, who is the director of the award-winning film Viva Riva. Djo, what made you want to become a filmmaker?
I became a filmmaker by accident, actually, because I studied fine art, and there was a moment where I had a crisis where I didn't really know what to do of my craft or my evolution. And so I went into a workshop. My brother pushed me to get into a workshop and spend some time. And then in that workshop I met this incredible independent radical director who was doing the workshop, told me to write a story, and they liked it, and I made a short film, and he said you should maybe try a film school. That's how it started.
So a complete accident, really?
Yes, absolutely. Not completely, because after all, many years after, when I completed the film school, and I look back at the life that I had, I can realize that the filmmakers that I love today, I saw them 20, 30 years ago. I watched a lot of films, spent a lot of time.
What type of films?
Well, we won't talk about Francis Ford Coppola, because that's maybe too obvious. But maybe I will talk about actors like Jeff Bridges. And I saw him in a film with Clint Eastwood. I think it was Michael Cimino who directed that. I love that film. Watched it many times. But these are references that you see later on. They say, okay, that guy, I loved him. Sergio Leone, but it's an obvious one that I really, really enjoyed when I was a child. And but after that is also David Cronenberg, in these horror films, so to speak, and many, many other filmmakers. So I watched other films. This was maybe my school at the time.
Okay. Viva Riva is very different from both Nollywood films and the more traditional African films based on rural life. Why did you choose to make a thriller?
To talk about the French type model of French financing films in Africa of certain era, that is the thing I didn't want to do. That was one of my starting points. This is not what we should do, and because it doesn't speak to people, it doesn't work. So there is also a problem. In Nollywood, I would say they had something that I admire them even today. Whatever what we think of the product is that it reaches the people. People feel connected to them.
It tells their story.
It tells their stories, and that is the most important, to tell people's story. So now, as a filmmaker, I would say I want to reach out to people. What's the point about making a film that nobody will see? And also with the level, the real reason I chose the genre film, with the level of, I would say, of education in my country, which is very low, is that I don't want to go for a film that is complicated. The genre film allows you to go in really, really simple codes, of like the good guy, the bad guy, the money, the dangerous woman, and then beyond
somebody
that,
has something that everybody wants.
Yeah, that everybody wants, exactly. Yeah. But beyond that, between the lines, you can really, really put some subtle things about society. And especially the film noir, I found them really, really sophisticated models in terms of
being able to tell social stories,
exactly.
Make social observations.
Yeah. So,
the movie draws on both the style of Nollywood acting and the tight scripting of the thriller genre. It's also very urban. How did you create this very mixed style in many ways?
Well, I suppose it's my background in documentaries. I've worked in documentaries as a line producer, so I've done a lot of work on film. I have also, I watched directors working. And so it's always very rich to include reality in whatever storytelling that you put, And what I tried with Viva Riva, to really kind of put a really strong narrative film, but a really strong reality, put them together and see what happens. That was the attempt. And so it creates something that is subtle, that is at the same time very fiction narrative, but at the same time looks real. The streets are real, the houses are real, the people are real too. And that's the magic.
So who wrote the script?
I did.
Okay. And how did you find writing it? Was that your first script or?
My first feature film script.
Yes.
It was. I call writing the slave job. Basically, it's really hard and you have to write a lot. But at the same time, I enjoy it. And also when you film, being a director, just continue writing with a different tool. But it's
quite a transition from working on documentary where the subject is in place, as it were.
Yeah, but still write.
Yes.
You still write. And actually, which was one of my problems on the set with the DOP, And they will say, I was asking, you know, you can have this shot, that shot. So they say, Joe, this is not documentary. This shot won't have any relevance in the editing, you know, because it's a narrative where you have to limit things.
Yes.
And so it was a bit of frustration, but at the same time, it's true.
Yeah.
It's true. And so writing on the paper and then writing with the camera, I think it's complementary. So the two hats, one of them is the slave because like writing on paper is really a lot of work.
Yeah.
Yes, but it's at the end of the process, it kind of like allow you to dream and to capture your dream, which is the essence of like what is writing on paper. I enjoy it really.
Yeah.
How you manage to capture your dream.
Where did you find the actors for the film?
Through a long process. I mean, you know, a city like Kinshasa, 8 million people, and really, really a fantastic city with its energy and the creativity is that the artists that live there, they don't do it for money. They do it because that's the meaning of their life. So they have potential, a great potential. So for me, it was how to bring the potential to kind of like a production value in a film. You know, not in a performance in the street, not in theater or like in a film. So I organized a big workshop. You know, we saw a lot of people, and we have selected the best of them, and we have put them into 2 months training.
Yeah.
You know, not about learning how to act because they act. It's about learning how to be comfortable with the technique.
Yes, and to be aware that you're
with the camera, and the first thing the first exercise was to be aware of your image.
Yeah, yeah.
How you play with that, how to live with that, and then how you can start writing with the director with your image.
And will those actors be reused in the next films that you make?
Yes, I did. I did a previous film to Viva Riva, which was called Papi. Some actors were in it. I did Viva Riva. Some were used, many were used in the Canadian movie that won the prize in Berlin. Rebel, I think, Rebellious or something like this. And so every production that is there in Kinshasa, they are used. And so I will use them in my next film.
And Viva Riva was made in Kinshasa, which is the capital of the Democratic Republic of Congo. How easy was it to make the film there?
Easier than people think. And you know, Congo, unfortunately, we have this bad image internationally, and we have also all these media and all this press that spend their time like spitting on Congo. And our government is weak, the state is very weak, so we can't defend ourselves. And so actually, when you look at the reality of Congo, it's much better than people think. And so the shooting was really easy. I don't say that it was just like every shooting is difficult, but comparing to the level of problems that I thought that we didn't have them. And because we were also well prepared, you know. And I was trying to explain that to businessmen a couple of days ago, is that in Kinshasa the problems that you're going to have are obvious. You see them. So you can fix them. You know, in other countries that look so shiny, you don't see the problems.
Yes.
And when they come, you just in trouble.
You're surprised by them.
Exactly. So it was cool, but it was also, as a first feature film after 27 years, also the people were great, the city was great. You know, we didn't have like, I don't have story to say we were in danger or anything. You know, it was all fine in that sense.
So it was the first film made for 26 years in...
Yes, yeah.
It's a considerable
it's
moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's a considerable journey for our country also.
Yeah. And where was Viva Riva shown in Kinshasa when it came out?
It was shown at the French Cultural Center.
Because there are
no cinemas anymore. All the cinemas are dead, and also we wanted to have a kind of like wanted to organize the screenings ourselves in terms of like, you know, going to popular area, put it in schools and different cultural places, but it's just too much, too complicated, that's too much energy, too much money.
Yeah.
And so we are a small organization, and we still do it ourselves, you know. Yeah. And so that was just too much. We say, but we'll do it. But now we're trying to have alliances, you know, with small organizations. Say, Joe, you know, we can do it. Say, okay, that's right, we can do that.
But the film was released across Africa into cinemas.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
And so even the release was, we planned to open in 18 African countries, I think we have managed for the moment 14 or something like that, because it is complicated. It is slow, not slow in the sense that things don't move, but it's slow in the sense that there are no connections between countries. There are no, so it's like you have to start all the time, everywhere you go.
It's one place, one place.
One place, yes. That we didn't know before.
Yeah.
But still, it does happen, and then every week there is something.
The film made a lot of waves in terms of its reception in Kinshasa. Describe to us why people found it controversial in some ways.
Well, I wouldn't say controversial. Huh? Because I didn't. Actually, it was not controversial in Africa. It was controversial in the US.
Okay.
Yeah. The problem that I had were with the diaspora living in America, North America, US and Canada. In Europe, no, with people kind of understood.
So the people in the diaspora were uncomfortable with...
So it's normal.
Yeah.
You know, people left the country 20 years ago and they have this fantasy about like Africa. And also, like my brother said to me, you know, because we were part of diaspora and he also moved back to Congo. And you say, Joe, when you look at these people who complain, you know, they were these people living in a really, really small world, really rich, and like the wealthy people who left the US. And so they, at the time already, they didn't have the correct vision of the country. Now you bring in them a film which is kind of like in your face, you know, in the street, in kind of like the raw material of Kinshasa. The distance for them is too much. So the crisis that I had, or the controversial that you may talk about, were basically in diaspora, not so much in Africa. Where, because you know what you see in Viva Riva is basically what you have in the street. So there is nothing new, you know.
It's quite unusual to have the kind of sex scene that you have in the film.
Indeed it is on the screen.
Yes.
But in the reality, most of people...
No, of course.
You know, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, you walk in Kinshasa at 7 o'clock at night, you know, prostitution is all over the place downtown.
Yeah.
And we know, and everybody know.
Yeah.
And you can claim that he doesn't, you know.
Sure.
And so, but also there's a taboo about we never put that on screen, or we never talk about it, or we never write these things, because it's kind of like it's not in our culture. But then the question is why it's not in our culture. You know, so,
make it visible.
Yes, and so I had a lot of people say, yes, let's go for this. You know, let's make it real. Now it's true. You know, it's like, and I of course there were voices say, but should we do this?
Yeah, will it reflect well on us?
But not controversial, not in Africa at least.
Yeah. You've got a couple of film projects coming up. Tell us about the Inspector Lou film.
Inspector Lou is a crime story, and it's a Chinese Congolese thriller noir film, and it's the story of this Chinese detective who comes to Kinshasa because he's chasing a Chinese gangster who has been chasing him for 20 years, and knows that he learned that the guy is in Kinshasa, so now is maybe the moment to catch him. So he comes, he partners with the Congolese detectives in his wildest dream. You know, the Congolese police is maybe something that can, you know, they can do something together and catch the guy. But then he discovers the Congolese police it's messy.
Yes, and there are other powers.
And there are other powers, and also this gangster has become much bigger than he thought. And so he is there, maybe, you know, with no option, but it also discovers Africa in a really, really fresh way. Yeah, then suddenly you realize, okay, all these things that you have there are fantastic. You know, but people, they don't realize, the Congolese themselves don't realize anymore, because it's like, you know, it's so about corruption and everything. And so there's this dynamic between this older Chinese detective and this younger Congolese detective, you know, partner, and they go along in Kinshasa between gunshot parties and drinking. Yes.
And trying to bring down the...
Trying to bring down, yes.
Yeah. Joe, thanks for talking to me today.
Thank you very much.